is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
Good evening. You're watching SMNI. This is Business and Politics. I'm your host, Dante Klink-Ang. Our guest tonight is Secretary Fred Pascual of the Department of Trade and Industry. Prior to joining the economic team of the Marcos government, he was a governance advocate, academic leader, international development banker, and management educator. He was formerly president of the University of the Philippines and was also president and CEO of the Institute of Corporate Directors and had served in various capacities at the Asian Development Bank and was independent director for a few major Philippine corporations. Also, he was president of the Management Association of the Philippines before joining the government. Our discussion tonight will revolve around his work at DTI. We will begin with follow-up questions about President Marcos' statement that his foreign trips have begun to bear fruit. Our general questions will be, what is DTI doing to make the Philippines globally competitive? Secretary? Welcome back to SMNI's Business and Politics. Secretary Fred Pascual, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Klink.
I know you've been very busy. We've been trying to pin you down for several months, but you're obviously doing some important work.
Well, finally I'm here. We can have a good exchange.
Thank you, Secretary. You know, the President was in the news a couple of days ago from this taping, and he was saying that the foreign trips that he's been busily doing are beginning to bear fruit. He didn't mention many of the details, but we know that the pledges amount to nearly 3.5 trillion pesos. I think BOI, has some updates. Maybe you can fill in some of the gaps there.
Well, the ones we have listed during our trips as prospective investors or investments, some have already materialize or beginning to get implemented. We generally cannot mention the specific company, but on the papers, for example, Tokyo Gas and Philgen have announced the commencement of their floating storage and regasification of liquefied natural gas, LNG. That's in the list, that we brought back from Japan. Toyota, whom we met in Japan, also committed to establish their light commercial vehicle manufacturing operation in the Philippines based on the old Tamarao type vehicle. I think the discussion with the President has sealed, the commitment, and they're starting to implement it. It's a 4.4 billion peso investment. From the U.S., we met with Procter & Gamble, and they've started implementing an expansion that will produce diapers. In Europe, Unilever said they will also do an expansion. They're doing that. A number of BPO operators and companies, multinational companies that have their backroom offices here, have also started increasing the number of seats in their BPOs, as they committed during our meetings. There were commitments also for data centers.
I think one from Singapore.
There's one from Singapore, which we have already approved in BOI. BOI is a good gauge of what's coming out of the trip. Remember, it's not just the ones listed that we can consider as an outcome from the trip. Because we have not met with all the prospective companies. In fact, we're prioritizing. But there are those who, on their own, have decided to go ahead. And BOI, for example, just for January, has already met 40% of its target of 1 trillion pesos in foreign investments
For the year, wow.
for the year.
Wow.
Yeah, and we still have, call it, 10 more months to go.
Right.
And hopefully this time we'll hit the 1 trillion target.
Right.
In Japan, for example, we met with a few, less than 10 companies on a one-on-one basis. Then we met with a bigger group in a business opportunities forum. But before that, there was a half-day session on business matching,
Right.
where more than 100 companies from the Philippines sat down and had 3 to 4 companies each time, or that they have met, each one.
Right.
Okay, so because there were, I think, more than 300 Japanese companies looking for opportunities in the Philippines that came and had discussions with prospective partners in that business matching session. We have not accounted for the
So this is
results yet, That will be over and
Over and
above.
beyond the 3.5
Yeah,
trillion. Wow.
what we have documented.
Right.
Because the ones we have documented are those that have signed letters of intent or
Right.
memorandum of understanding. This is with respect to Japan. In Switzerland, we met with 2 important companies, and they're visiting already here. It's a major investor from the Middle East
Right.
that is looking for 10,000 hectares to be developed as an industrial estate.
Wow.
And I got a call or a text message from the Minister of Trade of that Middle East country, and he said he has another one.
Oh, wow.
So there'll be 2 of them. This is an operator of a large industrial estate in UAE
Okay.
that's planning to come here.
Wow.
Another one that we met is one of the major processor of mineral ores that's interested in our nickel ores.
Right.
That's the one based in Switzerland. So that's a major possibility as
And
well.
we were talking before the show that even with China, which has been in the news for the wrong reasons, with regard to durian, they're also you said they were looking
Yeah, one
for,
of the agreements that the Philippines signed with the Chinese government is the protocol on durian.
Yeah.
We agreed on the sanitary and phytosanitary protocols for the export of durian to China. And that protocol opens up the Chinese market for Philippine durian.
Right.
And we're expecting huge amount,
Wow.
in the billions of dollars.
Right.
And also, I don't think probably will not be able to meet the volume.
Right.
The Chinese themselves are planning to run plantations here.
Okay.
But they're looking for large tracts of land in the order of 5,000 hectares.
Oh, I think even
Plant durian.
the Davao Chamber, I think last week, was already conducting some seminars on durian farming. I think in preparation for that market.
That will be major.
Right. Well, very very interesting developments, Secretary. So, amid all that, of course, the president was being criticized that he was going abroad too often. But obviously, as you've enumerated, there's a lot of investments that are now starting to pick up. But
it was a selling trip where we met with specific prospective investors.
Yeah.
And it was also a promotional effort.
Yeah.
We need to announce to the world that the Philippines open for business, and who can best do that?
yeah. Well, we
President.
we even wrote an editorial about that, supporting him on that. But he also mentioned that he will be taking fewer trips, at least for this year. That seems counterintuitive to the positive developments that we've been hearing.
I think it's because we have already gone to the major
You've hit the major
sources
partners
of investments and trade
Okay.
partners.
Okay.
So the next time around, we'll be probably visiting some other non-traditional markets
I see.
and sources of investments.
I see. Well, when you were talking to people abroad on these trips, what are some of the things that you've been hearing that reminds you of the things that we should be doing, prepare our country to be competitive in attracting investments?
Yeah, many of the issues we're already tackling and aware of.
Yeah.
For example, high power cost.
That's a common, it's a common thing.
That came out very clearly in our discussions.
Yeah.
There is the issue of red tape,
Okay.
ease of doing business. So we'll have to address that as well.
Yeah. Well, what is exactly do you think is still missing? Because you've come from industry, right? We do have a law on the ease of doing business. We even had the result of that, the anti-red tape authority. But still, we're still seeing or hearing comments that we need to work on that. Are those legitimate complaints, you think, or is there a lag between the execution and the appreciation of the?
It's a big issue to tackle because it involves two levels of government, the national and the local.
Okay.
We have a pending executive order which we drafted for the president, and this on the establishment of green lanes at the LGU level.
Okay.
Where we will ask the LGUs to assign a specific office and individuals to take care of the processing of permits and licenses, because that's usually where the bottleneck is. And then the national level, a one-stop shop at BOI.
Okay. Well, are you working with, let's say, the League of Governors or League of Mayors? Because it seems like there are some success stories, right? Quezon City, I hear, does better than most LGUs. The question is, why cannot more Philippine cities do what QC does when it comes to like reducing the difficulties or the bureaucracy and business registration?
There are good models. You mentioned Quezon City. There are others.
Yes.
I will call this a temporary or interim solution because in the long run, what will happen is that we will digitalize the operation down from the national government down to the local governments.
Right.
And this digitalization process will really streamline government procedures.
Right. And that's a priority.
It's a priority, priority program of the government.
Right.
In fact, it's in the PDP, the Philippine Development Plan,
right.
And it comes out in discussions abroad. When we're meeting with businessmen and governments.
Right. Well, lastly, sir, before we go on break, governance, that's also a major personal advocacy of yours. Is that an issue? I mean, has that come up? Or maybe what else has come up?
Well, governance is a big issue, particularly in certain areas. For example, in the supply chain between farms and the retailers.
Right.
There's a lot of governance issues that have to be addressed, particularly in terms of traders taking advantage of the inability of farmers, for example, to store their produce.
Yeah. We're fortunate to have the president himself acting as Secretary of Agriculture.
That's right. That helps, and there are important programs that the Department of Agriculture is doing, and DTI is cooperating to address the logistical and supply chain issues. For example, we have an agreement with the DOTR on we call it Let's Go. It's logistical efficiency in transport or something for making sure that we are able to bring food from the sources to the users, the consumers. And there is also Let's Eat with DPWH, so that we can build the necessary linkage between sources of farm produce and the market.
All right. We'll just take a quick break. This is Business and Politics with Secretary Fred Pascual. Please stay tuned.
We don't need to explain because truth needs no justification. We are not afraid because the truth will always win. When we ask questions, it's always for the good of all. We question to build, not to break. We question to clarify, not to confuse. We question to protect, not hurt. Truth hurts, but it heals. Tune in to SMNI, where truth is free. SMNI, defining true press freedom.
Welcome back to Business and Politics. We're talking to Secretary Fred Pascual. Sir, we're still in the first quarter of the year. What's your outlook? Are you optimistic? Are you worried about what's going on? I mean, there are, of course, things outside of our control, such as the war in Ukraine and other things that we've been hearing about. But what's your general outlook for the
I
country?
think for the Philippines, I'm optimistic.
Okay.
Given that we have a big market by ourselves, given that we have a 10% of our GDP being contributed by remittances from abroad, and already history has shown that troubles like pandemic has not really reduce the amount of remittances that we're getting from our overseas Filipino workers. So these are sources of optimism in the sense that resources are coming into the country.
Despite
all
all
the
of
troubles
things.
abroad.
Yeah.
And the challenge for us is to really improve productivity,
Okay.
particularly in agriculture, so that we can approximate or get close to being self-sufficient in food. Food security is a major issue.
Yeah.
Other countries, their problem is nutrition security, but but the two are related, you know.
Right.
Of course, we have to worry about nutrition, but food that fills the stomach is the priority. Nutrition follows. If we can address that, and there are programs being implemented by the Department of Agriculture to improve farm productivity. Of course, the challenge for us is how do we consolidate parcels of land that have been cut up into small parcels.
Right.
But there is a way. Under DTI is the Cooperative Development Authority.
Oh, that's under yours. Okay.
And I'm trying to mobilize this Cooperative Development Authority to focus on farming cooperatives.
Okay.
But we need to train the people who will manage cooperatives, because cooperatives have not had a pleasant history.
Oh.
There have been abuses, there have been failure,
Mismanagement?
agency issues, management, pursuing interests that are not really for the farmers, you know.
Yeah.
So we need to address all those things. But if we can organize the cooperatives, then we can start mechanizing farm operation.
Yeah.
And then we're encouraging also large companies, you know, to go into farming. And we've had presentations from one major company, which is a joint venture between a Philippine company and a foreign company in the coconut sector.
Okay.
Okay, because coconut is an actual export already, but the potential for increasing the exports and diversifying the products that can be exported from coconut is tremendous. So that sector can be tackled through corporate involvement and industrializing that particular aspect of agriculture.
I was going to ask you, Secretary, is that the solution? Because our editorial, one of the editorials that we published is that the problem in the Philippines is the aging farmers, right? They range from 56 to 59, I believe, or something
That's
like
right.
that. And the next generation are opting out of agriculture because there are opportunities in the cities, thanks, I guess, to the success of BPOs and whatnot, or they go abroad. So the next generation is not going into that industry. So the question is, who will feed us, basically? But is that the future? I mean, to corporatize the farm, is that?
Well, what we want to happen, is to entice the children of farmers,
Okay.
to consider.
You're not giving
going
up
back
on
to
them.
farming.
Yeah.
We should not,
Okay.
But the big difference is that we'll give them
Incentive.
technology.
Okay.
Okay, because they will not. The farmers themselves have been discouraging their children to go to farming because
Right.
it's a very labor
Intensive, yeah.
back-breaking job, and they've been encouraged to seek job opportunities elsewhere. But we want to bring them, children of farmers. They'll be given scholarships to attend agricultural colleges, learn about technology of farming, and with government programs, provide the necessary mechanization. But we should have a mechanism to consolidate land. You cannot apply full technology, full mechanization in a 1.5,
It's all
3 hectare
backyard.
plot.
Yeah.
There's simply no economies there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are ways, as I said, through cooperatives, through leasing, and
Yeah.
people getting together. It can be done.
Right.
There are models that can be followed. Or I think Land Bank at one point, was talking about the idea of cooperatives, but managed like a corporation.
I see.
That's one. Or maybe a corporate entity could, lease land from the farmers, employ the farmers, and run the operation.
Right. Right.
There are various structures that can be explored.
Right. Could you elaborate a little bit on what DTI's role is? And I didn't realize that you had such a big role to play. You mentioned the cooperatives, and you're mentioning talking to all of these investors who are looking to look at really plantation style operations in the Philippines. But could you elaborate on what else DTI is doing in helping revive agriculture? Are there other things that you're preoccupied with?
Yeah, I proposed, and we have an agreement that after the farm gate, DTI becomes responsible for streamlining the supply chain.
Okay.
So we're addressing that.
Okay.
And we are working in partnership with DOTR, DPWH.
Yeah.
We need a cold storage chain, for example,
Okay.
so that farmers will not be beholden to traders who would buy the products upon harvest,
Right.
because the farmers cannot keep their harvest, no storage.
Right.
So I was already talking with our officials that for 2024, we'll get more allocation for doing cold storage chain and other facilities to take care of the harvests of our farmers.
So are you looking to, is the government looking to operate these facilities, or are you looking at maybe providing the financing so that the farmers can buy these storage facilities? This
Yeah, various
machinery?
combination.
Okay.
If there are organized cooperatives, the cooperatives can be asked to manage cold storage or other farm produce storage with funding from the government.
Okay.
Government can go into PPP with private entity.
Okay.
We will set up a chain of cold storage and other facilities.
Right.
So there are various schemes that we are exploring.
Right. You come from education, the education sector. You mentioned also encouraging younger Filipinos to study agriculture again. That enrollment has been declining something like 1.5% a year before the pandemic. I guess because, as we've been talking about, they're going into other fields. But I guess if you could put your educator's hat on, what can be done? I mean, is scholarships, is that the only thing, or do we have to really rethink agriculture altogether?
Yeah, it has to be a holistic view, The problem with the colleges in the past, they will train agriculturists, and then after they graduate,
One.
gone,
Yeah.
I'm trying to talk to selected state universities and colleges,
Okay.
mainly university, because DTI has regional inclusive innovation centers in all the
Okay.
regions, in each of the 17 regions,
Okay.
I want these centers to be lodged in a selected SUC,
Okay.
okay? And we'd like the SUC, particularly in the farming communities, to have that expertise of guiding the operation of farms in their respective areas.
Right.
So we'll have to involve the academe, we'll have to involve the government, to the Department of Agriculture and DTI,
Yeah.
so we can put all the elements together.
Secretary, in one of the events where we had you as a guest, I think it was at the Aletran event, you were still president of the MAP.
Yeah.
And you had a very interesting proposal back then, which was to review the charters of the SUCs and make them sort of like specialists in a particular area. Can you elaborate on that, and maybe
Yeah.
in the context of what we're talking about, which ones can be the agriculture?
In Europe, for example, in one country, the entire value chain of an industry, for example, dairy,
Okay.
from the raising of cows,
Right.
milking, processing the milk,
yeah.
dairy, producing dairy
Cheese,
products.
yeah.
There's an assigned university,
There's a
different
Science University.
stages. So they'll focus on the R&D requirements, the management, the know-how, training for the people engaged in the industry. That's the concept that I'd like to implement. That's what I had in mind, when we were trying to provide our recommendation to the incoming government. I didn't.
Right. You didn't expect to be
anticipate
called.
that I'll be in this position that
Yeah.
that I might be able to implement what I was recommending.
Yeah. Well, very interesting idea. Secretary, we'll just have to take another quick break. This is Business and Politics on SMNI. Please stay tuned.
Did you know that water is the only drink that can quench your thirst? Drink Galilee Purified Drinking Water. Every bottle undergoes advanced scientific process to ensure safe, clean, and pure bottle. So what are you waiting for? Drink Galilee Drinking Water. Every bottle is a labor of love. For delivery, contact Galilee Purified Drinking Water at 0956 658 4195 or 0998 466 0202 or 8572 1869.
Welcome back to Business and Politics. We're talking to DTI Secretary Fred Pascual. So we're talking about agriculture, but really the end goal really is to sell the products, right? So again, that's where DTI comes in. Can you tell us about your work in helping micro, small, and medium enterprises? Because I suppose what we're talking about also falls under that category, right?
Well, after the farm, you need to do some processing to add value to the farm produce.
Make a final product.
Well, if there are large companies that are going to do it, fine.
Sure.
But normally in various regions of the country, you just have small businesses.
Yeah.
So, and this is already ongoing, We have the OTOP program, one town, one product.
Yeah.
And I've seen their products, they're good. Some airports have OTOP stores, so tourists and Filipino travelers can see them. Then we have, after that, we have the Go Local stores. These are products that have achieved a certain level of sophistication. But I noticed that the scope or the market reach of these enterprises are limited,
Okay.
to where they are. So one solution is really when there is a technology solution to that,
Okay.
It's already available, the e-commerce platform.
The internet, okay.
Okay. But the first step is for us to catalog
Okay.
what's going on.
Okay.
We don't know which and what SMEs or MSMEs are doing
Are doing what?
what.
Yeah.
So we'll catalog and then put them in an e-catalog and eventually use the catalog for purposes of, say, government agencies to scan the catalog and to see which products they need are available from local sources and what quantity.
Right.
Okay? And at some point, hopefully soon, we'll make it mandatory for government agencies to buy from MSMEs, mainly SMEs, if the products are available locally.
But
the government is the biggest spender, biggest
Right.
consumer in the country. And we still import,
Yeah.
some of the things government is using. But if purchase or the market can be assured, the MSMEs will help the small businesses to gear up and increase their production capability and achieve a certain level of quality so that they can supply the requirements of government.
Well, I was going to say, Secretary, that the Magna Carta for MSMEs, doesn't it already require all government offices, for all the way from the national government all the way down to the local governments, to set aside 10% of their procurement budgets for MSMEs? But
Yes, we're trying to track that. I don't know.
it's not. It's been
happening.
forgotten. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's 10%. I'm thinking of more than 10%.
More than that. Okay.
Yeah. And the problem with, I'm not sure, I'll check this, whether it's mandatory or just give a margin of preference in the bidding process.
Oh.
What we want to happen is that it's not just a margin of preference, but actually a requirement for them to procure locally if it's available.
Yeah, my recollection, Secretary, is that it's mandatory. But here's the problem that I heard of. I don't know if this is the same situation forever, but the Department of Education, I think, was trying to procure desks made of bamboo.
Yes.
Except that when they were facing Congress during their budget hearings, they're saying there were no suppliers who were able to qualify for the bidding. I don't know whether or not that particular procurement item was too large for any single MSMEs to fill up, but they were saying that nobody came forward. I mean, what do you think?
That's precisely what we want to address through an e-catalog.
Okay.
So we will have a view
Right.
across the country what's available. Right now,
We have no idea.
no idea.
Yeah.
Government is required to procure, but from whom? Where?
Yes. Yeah.
It's the information is not available.
Right.
So we want to address that informational gap. So government, there is that law requiring mandatory purchase of up to 10% of their budget can be realized.
Right. Right.
We need to develop the means to make it happen.
Yeah. The other thing that's in that law that's I think talked about more often is the provision that says that financial institutions should set aside 10% of their total loanable funds for MSMEs. But I think for that particular provision, there was an ending year, and I think it's already passed. I mean, it's. But even then, it was never complied with. So
I think that's an alternative to the Agri-Agra
I see.
loan, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And the problem, again, the banks are not geared to financing small businesses.
Yeah. Well, you should know.
The transaction cost is simply too high.
Yeah.
That's why there is a market for the so-called microfinance institutions or the 5/6 operators.
Yes.
Because the 5/6 operator will actually bring the money to the borrower and then collect the money from the borrower, saving the small businessman the high transaction cost of having to go to the bank, transact, and then go again to the bank to repay.
But you are also a banker, before government. Isn't there some structural changes that can be done? For example, couldn't government, say maybe the small business corp, guarantee some, maybe a certain percentage to maybe help ease the anxieties of the banks about loaning to people who don't have the documents or the collateral or the traditional things that bankers require, right, to process loans?
Yeah, there is a field guarantee
Okay.
corporation owned by the government that's in the position to provide the guarantee. But quite apart from the guarantee, technology can really do magic in terms of making borrowers bankable depending on their track record,
Right.
which can be accumulated digitally. There will be digitized data on their transactions if they are, for example, on an e-commerce platform. And that record on transactions can be the basis for non-collateralized credit.
Right.
This is happening. It's already happening,
Okay.
with fintech.
Okay.
Some banks, I will not mention name, but a few banks are already are able to lend without collateral based on data gathered from an e-commerce platform.
And if I wasn't mistaken, wasn't MAP your previous organization? They were also working on this problem, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are solutions now, especially with fintech, with digitalization, with commerce platform.
Right.
And we hopefully we can further increase the reach of fintech companies that
Right.
are going to lend. The first challenge is to get small businesses to adopt the digital payment
Okay.
system.
Okay.
So they'll be included in the formal financial system.
Okay.
And after that, the transactions will be recorded. There will be an accumulation of digitized data that can be the basis for extending credit.
I think one of the things I've heard from BOI regarding the foreign trips was this thing about the Starlink of Elon Musk. Is there some additional details that you can fill us in there with? I mean, I'm sure this is like related to what we're talking about, right?
They've just announced, recently that they're ready to implement, and that will provide connectivity to the remotest areas in the country.
Is that the solution
Yes,
that we're talking about?
that will provide a major solution because the MSMEs that are scattered all around the country, 99.5% of enterprises are MSMEs,
Right.
And we need them. We need these MSMEs to get digitally connected,
Right.
so that they can make use of digital payments platforms, e-commerce platforms, and financing through fintech.
Right. Do you think, Secretary, that there's also some sort of social preparation that needs to happen also? Because, when we passed that Magna Carta for MSMEs, obviously the small businessmen have the money, right? They just felt intimidated, I suppose, to go to a bank and fill up the form. I mean, they have the resources. I mean, and from what I understand, they are able to pay, right? So that's not the issue. It seems like there is this mindset that going to banks is not for them, right? Filling out forms is intimidating. Is there a need for that, to address that, social preparation?
I think there is a need to, train the farmers or the small businesses, businessmen about the wonders of technology and how they can transact without having to go to the bank.
Yeah. Because
Just
they have no trouble
they are.
paying the 40% from the 5-6, right? So,
That's right. So if they know that they can save, they will deal.
Yeah.
It has been tried before, but there was no support from by technology. Like remember the money shops set up by one bank before?
Yes,
Still
yes,
manual dispensing of loans and manual collection, tedious. Now all these things, loan releases, collection can be done digitally.
Yeah.
with digital payments.
Well, I know MAP, your previous group was also working on financial literacy. Is that also part of the solution?
Yes, even DTI has programs
Okay.
to familiarize small businesses, businessmen, to the wonders of technology.
Right.
And we have a mentoring program, Go Negocio,
Right.
where we're working closely with Joey Concepcion, for example, in promoting mentoring among those who know so that they can teach the small businessmen
Right.
on various aspects of running a business, including technology.
Right. So in talking about MSMEs, how do we encourage more people to look into the higher value innovations? Right. When we talk about entrepreneurship in Israel, for instance, they're talking about high tech and they're talking about their country as a startup nation, and so is Singapore, right? With seemingly small enterprises becoming unicorns, whereas in the Philippines, at least in the past, the focus has been cottage industries. Not that there's anything wrong with cottage industries, but we seem to be focusing on the low value types of entrepreneurship, low value types of innovation, rather than the high tech ones. How can we change that?
Well, firstly, we need to have more technology incubators and accelerators around the country.
Okay.
DTI has negotiation centers, which
Okay.
can be where small businessmen can go to learn more about technology. Normally, the high tech thing is normally incubated in a university.
Okay.
So we need to get our university students
Again,
more
it's a component that has to be.
Yes.
All right.
Like AIM, for example, is now offering an undergraduate degree in digital technology, so which is a big step towards upskilling and reskilling our people.
Okay.
Because that's where growth is.
Yeah.
Everything is getting digital, so we better have the people who have the skills. All these things in the fourth industrial revolution technologies are based on digital technology, AI, Internet of Things.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Sir, we just have to take another break. You're watching Secretary Fred Pascual of DTI. This is Business and Politics. Please stay tuned.
Nais mo bang mapanood ang SMNI sa telebisyon? Kung ikaw ay Sky Cable subscriber, narito ang mga channels kung saan pwedeng mapanood ang SMNI. Sa National Capital Region, Sky Cable Channel 162. Cebu, Sky Cable Channel 37. Davao City, Sky Cable Channels 14, 43 at 46. General Santos City, Sky Cable Channel 37. Zamboanga, Sky Cable Channel 53. Bacolod, Sky Cable Channel 37. Iloilo, Sky Cable Channel 36. Dumaguete, Sky Cable Channel 37. Baguio, Sky Cable Channel 14. At Lawag, Sky Cable Channel 10. Para naman sa mga Signal subscribers ay mapapanood ang SMNI sa Channel 186 sa buong bansa. Maaari ring mapanood ang SMNI sa Digital TV sa Davao City at Manila, pati na rin sa TV Plus at GMA of Fordabox. Ano pang hinihintay mo? Panoorin mo na ang SMNI sa inyong telebisyon. Dahil dito sa SMNI, taong bayan ang bida.
Welcome back to SMNI. This is Business and Politics. We're talking to DTI Secretary Fred Pascual. Sir, what's on DTI's plate this year? What's keeping you busy? I know there are many things that we've been talking about, but maybe can you list some of your priorities at the department?
Well, my real interest is in implementing our industrialization policy.
Okay.
And the integration of trade policy and industrial policy. See, we want to be an export-oriented country, but to be able to produce the export products, we need investments.
Okay.
And the investments can come locally from domestic investors, but more importantly, if you're talking of scale, from international investors. So that's how we can develop a vibrant export sector. Well, the old approach was our cottage industries,
Right.
That will continue,
Right.
but we will help our small producers increase their productivity with the use of science, technology, and innovation. And we have the programs for doing that. And hopefully, they can also participate. Some will be direct exporters, but I envision that many more will be suppliers to the large industries that will set up here.
Right.
We want to have an ecosystem of companies participating in the value chain of a major industry.
Right.
And I'd like to be able to pursue that more vigorously. Only problem is there's so much time being demanded by the need to address the immediate issues, of consumer protection,
Right.
Protecting them from undue increases in prices. There are
Right.
a number of programs that I'm pursuing
Right.
for that purpose. But we need to focus on industrialization and shift our economy from being consumption-driven to one led by industrialization.
Is there a particular sector that needs more attention than the others to realize that dream of industrialization, Secretary?
I think we can start with what we have already. We are a major
Okay.
exporter of electronics
Okay.
products, semiconductors.
Okay, that's something to build on.
Yeah. So we just build on this, go up the value chain. Right
Okay.
now we're just doing assembly and testing.
Right.
But we need to produce
Right.
at some point the wafer,
Right.
that goes into the semiconductor manufacturing or the IC design.
Right.
More sophisticated involvement in the digital world. Aerospace, we have a major MRO company, Lufthansa Technics, operating
yes.
here and still expanding. I visited their operation recently, and I saw the servicing of the biggest aircraft in the world, the Airbus 380
Wow.
Series 800. They have that capability and becoming popular, among airlines. That's the other area, aerospace, And then the processing of our mineral ores.
Okay.
We cannot just be exporting
Of raw materials.
raw ores
Yeah.
and leave the value creation to our importing companies. We need to add and create the values right here and export semi-finished products, maybe initially, and eventually finished products.
Right.
Some cathode or components of battery, but eventually we need to build the batteries here because we have the key ingredient, the key raw material for battery making, which is nickel,
Right.
an important green metal. We have copper also. That's very much needed in the electronics industry.
Yeah.
So related to this will be the electric vehicles that we can that we are aspiring to develop as an industry in the Philippines.
I know there's an EO for that.
No, there's a law, EVIDA.
Yeah, but there was also an executive order that I think the NEDA announced to encourage more EV usage here. But
That was the EO on reducing the tariff on importation of EVs
Yes.
down to zero.
Yeah, but the thing that confused me there was that if we are trying to encourage manufacturing, why are we not giving it to that tariff privilege to CBDs. I mean, completely built up units rather than knock down.
It's stage by stage,
Okay, so this is a phase.
You need the critical mass of electric
First.
vehicles in the country to encourage the setting up of charging stations.
Okay,
Okay, if you have that ecosystem
and then you
already,
go to the next.
then
step.
you go back, integrate backward, and do assembly here.
Right, right.
And then eventually production of some of the components. We're
Right.
producing number of the components already, like wiring harnesses.
Right.
We're a big exporter of
Yasaki Torres, I
wiring.
think, is one of the biggest.
Yasaki Torres type.
Yeah,
And batteries.
Yes,
The cost of battery is half the cost of an electric vehicle.
right.
So if we can produce that locally,
Sure.
fine. And then, of course, the other area, we need to further improve our IT BPM operation to go up the higher
I see.
levels of value,
Yeah.
the higher value ranks of the ladder.
And as you said, hopefully we will be exporting these things. But the key there is also what you have been working on, which is the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, right? To open up these markets.
Yeah.
You know, we've been talking about that for many months now. What's the latest that you?
Well, the latest is that it has already been sponsored by no less than the Senate President and
Okay.
the Senate President Pro Tempore
Yeah.
on the floors of the Senate last week. I was there. And after this interview, I will have to rush to the Senate for the further deliberation.
Right.
Hopefully we can get it done. Because we need RCEP. If I were to succeed, in making the Philippines the industry hub for a number of sectors.
Yeah. You need
like
that.
we have
Yeah.
in mind. We need that
Yeah.
for buying components and for exporting in the region
Yeah.
and in the countries that are part of RCEP.
Yeah, but how hard has it been, Secretary, to convince people to have this mindset of yours, which is to go after the possibilities so we can sell to other markets? Because the objections to RCEP has been the fears that foreigners would come in and compete with our local industries, but they don't mention the possibility of us going outside.
Yeah.
Right. How hard
I
has
don't
it
know.
been
We have
to?
the mindset of just worrying about our being at the receiving end.
Yeah.
But we can be more proactive and as I already mentioned,
Yeah.
we can produce here and export from here.
Yeah.
And we need RCEP for that purpose.
Right. Right.
In most of our meetings with prospective international investors, talking about their investing in the Philippines, that's a major question always.
Yeah.
When are you joining RCEP?
Right. And
Because without RCEP, it doesn't make sense for them
Right.
to use the Philippines as a manufacturing hub.
Right.
Because they'll not be competitive
Right.
in selling to the region.
Right.
And the 5 non-regional countries that are members of RCEP.
Right. Wow, and I think you were correcting me earlier because I was saying that only the Philippines and Myanmar are the left outs, but you said that Myanmar doesn't count because.
Because it's not an original
So
signatory.
we're technically the Philippines is the only one that has not yet ratified it. in
Yes,
that
among
case.
the 15 countries that originally agreed
Right.
to go into this partnership,
Right.
only the Philippines has not ratified
Wow.
the agreement.
Well, I
So
hope
we're odd man out so
Yeah.
far, but I hope not for long.
not for long. And you're working on other free trade agreements that are similar. Could you talk about that? I know there's one in Europe that's
Well,
been.
hopefully Korea, I'll be able
Korea.
to sign soon
Okay.
because that's in an advanced stage. We're in the process of reviewing our free trade agreement with Japan.
Okay.
We call it GPEPA.
Yeah.
Philippine-Japan Economic Cooperation
Partnership Agreement.
Agreement,
Yeah.
GPEPA. And then we are in the process of getting our GSP Plus coverage
For Europe.
by EU.
Yeah. This is a
I've
renewal,
gone on a
right?
mission to EU, met with my counterpart there in the EU Council and the EU Council and the EU Parliament. Then the US has also. We need the US to renew our coverage under US GSP,
Okay.
which expired in December 2020.
Oh, okay.
So we don't have that preferential tariff arrangement with the U.S.
Okay.
And I think we will eventually get that renewal.
Okay.
But I told my counterpart, the Secretary of Trade, Gina Raimundo, that and my counterpart when it comes to trade, the U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai, that beyond GSP, we want to resume our negotiation for a free trade agreement to have a more permanent platform to seal our trade relationship.
What are the challenges? What have been the stumbling blocks? I mean, that
I think
kind of ironic because of our
internal
history with the U.S., right?
Yeah, they're all internal constraints in the U.S.
I see.
You know? Like
So
the
domestic
President
politics-
Biden has announced no more free trade agreement with anybody.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll have to go around that and see. You know?
Right.
We can, if we can still pursue an FTA
And
with
Europe,
U.S.
Europe is an important one also.
It is because there are products being produced here that are being sold to the European market.
Am I not correct? 6,000 something plus products that benefit from
Yes,
EU
but we're not
GSP.
utilizing all those tariff lines. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again,
but significant amount.
yeah. And that's the question, Secretary. Why are we not doing that? I mean, what's the?
Well,
I guess that's
we
what
need-
you're working on, right? The bottlenecks.
We need the manufacturers, you know.
Yeah.
We need the investors to put up the manufacturing facility.
I
They
see.
will produce those products here.
Yeah.
They can be local investors or
Yeah.
foreign investors.
Are you getting positive signals from EU about the possibility of getting
Yes,
that
we
renewed?
made long presentation and representation. Also, a contingent of our legislators went to
Yeah.
the EU
Yeah.
to lobby for the renewal of our GSP Plus
Right.
coverage.
Right.
Well, one selling point that I've emphasized is that culturally, the Philippines is the most akin to Europe. You know,
Yeah.
in ASEAN and
Right.
in Southeast Asia,
Right.
given our background. You know,
Right. Yes. Formerly.
formerly
a Spanish-
colonized by
Yeah, Spain. Yeah.
by Spain, and you know the Christian culture that we
Yes.
have. You know, I'm not talking of religion, but
Right,
the
right.
culture. You know.
Well, Secretary, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm glad that we finally had this, and I'll already extend my advance invitation for another interview when the occasion warrants and when your time allows. But Secretary, before we go, maybe you'd like to leave a message for our guests.
Well, I'd like to encourage our small businessmen to work with us in DTI. We have the facilities, we have the negosyo centers, we have the regional inclusive innovation centers. We can make arrangements for you to link up with bigger companies for mentoring or for possible supply arrangements or distribution arrangements. So let's work together. I'd like also to invite our domestic investors to work closely with foreign companies that can bring new technology to the country. I think many foreign investors would want a reliable partner in the country for them to enter, so you can do your important part, you know, in bringing this partnership to be able to set up new industries in the Philippines. We have challenges ahead, but I'm sure if we work together and support each other, we can tackle these challenges and we can make investments happen in the Philippines.
Thanks, sir. Thank you very much. And I guess you heard it from Sec Fred himself. The Philippines is open for business. Thank you to everyone watching this program live and watching the replay. Thank you also to Pastor Paul Kibuloy for making this program possible. This has been Business of Politics, and I'll see you next week.
Rescue ang 10 katao matapos sumiklab ang